In this episode, we're going to be exploring the cuisine of Taiwan. Specifically, we're going to be making 3-cup chicken, which is a fairly standard Asian-style braised dish. It's typically made with chicken, but you could use pork, frog, tofu. Virtually any protein and a number of different ingredients can be included, added, removed. It's really a very flexible and versatile, simple dish that you can customize, any way that you like. Here's the section I've been looking for. Jasmine rice. This is really what you want for this recipe, is the best quality jasmine rice. And if you go to an Asian market, you'll find that there's different size packages, small ones, big ones. Which one is best? If you start to really pay attention to the details, you'll notice that the best ones will have new crop or the harvest date written on the side. That's really what you want to go for. And once you realize that, you'll notice that only the biggest bags are the ones that have that new crop written on them. And the reason why is because the customers, the consumers who are buying the most high quality rice that really have the demand for the top quality eat a lot of rice. So these will only come in big bags typically. So jasmine rice is what you want to find, and you want to find the new crop. You'll also notice sometimes other labels on it. Jasmine rice is also called Thai Hom Mali rice, which is the word for it in the Thai language. This is the whitest, most fragrant, delicious rice, and you can use this for most Asian recipes. We're in the sesame oil section at the Asian market, and this can be a little bit intimidating if you come in and you're trying to find a sesame oil because there's such a variety. Obviously, one of the biggest differences is whether it's toasted or untoasted. Untoasted sesame oil is going to be clear, right? It'll have sort of a golden color to it. Toasted sesame oil, though, is the one that really has all the flavor. If you're looking for a sesame oil to use as a finishing, like at the end of a dish, or even if you want to cook in it and really get that maximum flavor, you want to find one that's toasted. And you'll see that on a lot of the labels, but even still, you could just look at the bottle and see the color. Some of them are going to be darker than others, right? And then you'll even find black sesame oil, right, which is made from the black sesame seeds. One other thing that you should avoid is a sesame oil that's not pure, right? Even though it says sesame oil on the bottle, that doesn't mean that it's pure sesame oil. By labeling regulations, it has to have at least half sesame oil, but it might have other things in there as well. And this one lists in the ingredients sesame and rice oil. So I would avoid something like this. And I would target instead 100% pure sesame oil, because this is where you're going to get the maximum flavor. And if it's too strong for you, you can always blend it yourself. That gives you a lot more flexibility so that if you want that intense flavor, you can get it. If you want a milder flavor, you can blend it. But if you buy a blended oil, you just have mild flavor, so you'll never be able to get that intensity that you're looking for. Taiwan, also known as the Republic of China, is located in the South China Sea, and it's one of the most densely populated countries in the world, with a population of 23 million. The national language is Mandarin Chinese, and there are many other dialects of Chinese spoken there as well. Being that it's a small island in the South China Sea, seafood is a very, very important ingredient in their cuisine, and you'll find many examples of it all throughout. This week we're making 3-cup chicken. Chicken is a small bird, so it's easy to raise in a small area. Another very popular item from Taiwan that has really exploded and blown up all over the world, you probably even find it in your own neighborhood, is boba tea, or also referred to as bubble tea or pearl milk tea.
It's essentially a sweet beverage, almost like a smoothie, with tapioca pearls inside of it. Oftentimes you'll see brightly colored drinks, with exotic Asian flavors, and darkly colored tapioca pearls at the bottom.
Today we're going to make 3-cup chicken, which is a Taiwanese dish. You find it across Asia. China is very popular as well, and there are different variations on it. The one we're going to make today is the Taiwanese version. Some of the ingredients that we're going to be adding later on. One, we've got purple opal basil, or sometimes referred to as Thai basil. It's a very aromatic, kind of licorice flavored herb with nice purple stems, and these have little blossoms on top. And we're going to add this in at the end. If you put it in too soon, it turns black, so we're going to wait until the chicken is already tender. We also have some scallions, or green onions, and they'll add a lot of nice flavor and also some texture. So we're going to add it at the end so that they stay nice and tender. And some chilies, your preference. Depending on how hot you like it, you can use any type of chili that you like. You can even use a combination of chilies. I've made it with dried chilies and fresh chilies of all different types and colors. Today I've got some serrano chilies, which will be really, really nice. So add a nice amount of spice without being too much. So we're going to start with some chicken thighs, or if you prefer, you can use chicken legs. What you want to avoid with this dish is using chicken breasts. They would get too dry during this long cooking process. So this is better suited to darker cuts of meat. So I'm going to start with a little bit of sesame oil. I'm going to add chicken thighs. And we're going to let them start to sear. We don't really want to get too brown, but maybe just a little bit of light color. In the meantime, while that's cooking, I'm going to put on a pot of jasmine rice, which goes really well with this. So jasmine rice uses a little bit less water than long grain rice does. The ratio that you're going to use for jasmine rice is usually around 1.5, maybe even as low as 1.25 to 1 if it's very fresh. And other than that, you just cook it the way you normally cook rice. So we'll bring it to a boil. All right, in the meantime, I've got some fresh ginger. So I'm going to start peeling. Ginger adds a lovely aroma to the dish, a little bit of spice, not too much, but we're going to fix that by throwing in some chilies for extra heat. Check on this chicken. A little bit longer. Yeah, it's a little bit longer. It's not quite golden yet. All right, now that we have the ginger peeled, I'm going to split it in half and cut it into slices. I like them about 1/8 of an inch thick. We'll set that aside. Also have some fresh garlic. I'm going to get about 5 cloves for this dish. We'll start by trimming those roots off. There we are. Nice light golden color. Let's get the rest of the chicken in there. All right, and we'll come back and peel the garlic. And just keep an eye on everything. I got my rice coming to a boil now. I'm going to cover it with a lid. And reduce the heat to a simmer. All right. And the garlic, just finished getting off all of these peels, and then we're going to mince the garlic. I'm going to get a fairly fine paste. Don't want the garlic to be in too big of chunks, because if it's very large, then it's a little bit too intense. All right, we'll set that aside. Our ginger. All right, we're ready now. So this dish is called 3-cup chicken, and once you have the chicken seared and it's got a nice golden brown color on it, we're going to add the 3 cups. So the 3 cups are Chinese or Taiwanese rice wine, soy sauce, and sesame oil. We're going to add the ginger and the garlic. Stir the ingredients together, get them well combined. And it's okay if the liquid doesn't quite come up over the chicken. It's actually going to reduce a little bit while it's cooking also, but we're going to cover it with a lid so that everything will get cooked. This is your basic, braising, stewing technique. All right. We have a few other ingredients that are going to go in this dish later on. Some purple opal basil. This is very common across Southeast Asia, sometimes referred to as Thai basil. and some chilies to give it a bit of spice, and also some scallions or green onions. But we're going to wait until the chicken is cooked before we add those items. So once the chicken comes up to a simmer, we really don't want this to boil. I'm going to cover it with a lid. And we'll let that continue to cook for about 30 to 45 minutes, depending on how old the chickens were. Very young chickens will cook very quickly. Basically, you just want to check and see when they're tender and they're falling off the bone. If you're working with the older birds, like let's say fryer chickens are very young, and roasters are much older. And obviously, if you went so far as to get like a capon, right, like a rooster, then it's going to be very tough. Today I'm using fryer chickens, so it'll probably take about close to 30 minutes. All right, so the chicken is almost done, and we're going to prepare some of the final ingredients for garnishing. So I always wear gloves whenever I handle chilies because they are very spicy, and the oils tend to stick to your skin, and then they can cause a lot of problems later. So for this dish, I like to retain all the spice. So I'm just going to slice them. If you're looking for something a little bit less spicy, you certainly can split them in half and remove all of the pith, that white part that wraps around the seeds, because it's that part that contains the most of the capsaicin, the spicy part of the chili pepper. So entirely up to you if you want to leave that in or take that out. For this dish, I really like the textural contrast of the sliced chili peppers with the seeds intact, and I like the heat that it offers. If you're working with really spicy chilies, that'd be another good reason to maybe split them open if you can't take the heat on it. As always, check your chili peppers. Don't just assume that, you know, they're very spicy or not very spicy. You get lots of variations depending on how they were raised and grown. All right. So I'm going to add these peppers right to the pot. I like to put them in right towards the end so that they keep most of their crunch. Some people like to cook the chili peppers into the dish for a few minutes. It's up to you. I like a little bit of the textural contrast. And likewise with the green onions, I'm just going to cut them on the bias, and I put them in just before serving. Otherwise, they get kind of mushy. And I really like the texture that green onions offer. All right, so I'm just cutting those on the bias into about 1/8 of an inch, 1/4 of an inch slices. All right, add those. And then the basil, just going to pick the leaves and the blossoms and discard the stems. Purple basil is a wonderfully aromatic variety of basil. The typical one that you'll see in most markets is sweet basil, which is more Italian, and it does have some of that licorice flavor, but sweet basil is all green. If that's all you can find, it's perfectly acceptable to use it as a substitute. I've done it myself, and I enjoyed the flavor. But the authentic, and to get the most of that licorice flavor, go with the purple opal basil. And you can find that in Asian markets. All right, all that picked. And we are ready to serve. So I'm just going to stir to combine the ingredients. Ah, all those aromas. It smells amazing. I can't wait to eat. All right. So save a few of the blossom ends from the dish, and you can use that as a garnish. That's good. And we're going to serve with a little bit of jasmine rice. Just flake it apart and get it nice and fluffy. Pick out a nice piece of chicken. Some of that aromatic broth around the outside. All over the top of the chicken. There we are. So there we have it, 3-cup chicken. Very simple, easy to prepare dish with lots of flavor. All you have to do is remember 3 cups. 1 cup of soy sauce, 1 cup of rice wine, 1 cup of sesame oil. Enjoy.